So I've had this channel now for 2 years, nearly 2 years, and I realized the other day that I've spoken about everything to do with meditation. I've spoken a lot to do with meditation. There's still a lot I'd like to cover, but I've spoken a lot about different experiences, what they mean, how to develop with meditation, things to look out for. There is still a lot that I want to cover and will cover, but I realized that I've been meditating for most of my life and I've never made a video detailing how I meditate. And so I thought that in today's video it would be good for me to explain to you what I've done over the 25 years. I'll break it down in a really concise way, don't worry. But just to give you an insight into the sort of methods that I've practiced, why I practice them, how I practice them, in as much as how I was guided towards those techniques, and also what I practice now, because I think understanding that will give you some insights and it will be helpful for you to know how to choose what method to practice yourself and why certain methods are useful. Now, I'm not going to list them all out and explain them in a really boring way, but I'm just going to give you an overview of the journey that I've been on with it. And I think it will really help you moving forward with your own practice, your own journey. Because choosing the method and understanding why you're doing a meditation technique is really, really important. You know, you wouldn't be using if you're a carpenter, you want to know why you'd be using a certain chisel. You don't want to just be using a chisel to undo a screwdriver, you know, it's to undo a screw rather. You want to be using a screwdriver. So it's a little bit like that with meditation. You need to be clear on why you're using that technique, how that technique's developing you, and the overall goal. You know, if you're using a chisel as a carpenter, you might know that it's one of the tools that you're using for this particular job, but the overall project has a goal as well. Meditation's a bit like that. The overall project with meditation, the overall purpose behind it, for me at least, it may be different for you or for others, but I believe the highest perspective, highest goal is to realize truth, is to realize God, to see the divine, to know your own nature. To know your own nature as being the divine. That's the overall project. Now, meditation is a tool of many tools that we use to bring that project to a close, to bring that project to its end, to realize that project. Now, the different methods are different vehicles that you can use on your journey. And for me personally, I was very fortunate that I had a teacher from the get-go. So as a lot of you know, my dad was a meditation teacher and I was taught by his master, who became my personal teacher as well. And the beauty of that is that I took on and have always had a kind of traditional teacher-student relationship, which is not something that you get really now. It's not really the done thing. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, but it's just not the done thing. But I was fortunate to have that. And the beauty of that, and being taught by a genuine master, not just someone that's got a little bit of knowledge, but a genuine master, is that they know exactly where you need to be, what you need to be doing, and why you need to be doing it. And for me, I was always I was given a method, I was taught how to do it, and then I was left with that method for anywhere between 6 months and 2 to 3 years. So for some time, I might be working just purely with the breath for 2 years. And I would come back to my teacher with questions and he might help me with the questions. He might give me vague answers because it's something that I need to come to a realization of myself. But ultimately, I would be just left with that tool. You know, like a carpenter who needs to learn how to use a chisel properly. They're given the chisel, they're told what it's for, they're told how to use it, and then they're left to use it themselves. And through their mistakes, through working with that tool, they become better. Experience is something that you can't buy. And, you know, I was a heating engineer for 12 years and you just get better over the years because you become more experienced. And you can't buy that experience. You can buy, you know, you can do an apprenticeship, you can have someone there teaching you, but until you sit there, or you go out there in this case, and you go to jobs and you work on the jobs and you make mistakes and you try and learn from it, until you do that and you go through that process of like iterating what you've learned and mistakes that you may have made before, you don't get better. The more experience you get, the better you become. And it's a combination of good guidance, the right knowledge, and practice experience. Meditation is very much the same. You'll make mistakes. You'll have days where it feels really difficult. You'll have periods where you want to give up, but just work with the tool that you learn or you're given. So for me, I would work on a tool, a meditation technique for, as I say, anywhere between 6 months as a minimum, 3 years probably as a maximum. And then I'll be moved on to something else. So it might be the breath. The very first method I was taught actually was what was described to me as Tibetan colour meditation. It's something that I now teach in my school, my online school. Tibetan colour meditation tends to be a bit like Marmite. It's black or white. Some people love it, some people hate it. I found it very hard initially. I didn't particularly like it. And I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it because, like many people, I struggled with visualization. Nowadays, you get a blanket term of aphantasia. People say, oh, you've got aphantasia, you can't possibly visualize, and everyone gives up with it. That's fine. It's not, you don't need to grind through it. This was my own journey, really. And I found Tibetan colour meditation very hard initially, could barely visualize. Everything was grey and hazy, no clarity to the images in my mind, no stability to the image, could barely curate an image in my mind. But my teacher said, no, if you stick with this, you will be able to do it. Don't ever think that you can't do it. Always believe you can do it. Keep working at it. He would always say, human beings give up far too easily, far too early, far too easily. But you can do it. You're an embodiment of the divine, for God's sake. You can do it if you really want it. But that is the key. Do you want it enough? Do you want it enough, or are you not that bothered? If you're not that bothered, you won't get to the point of being able to do it, probably, because you won't work at it for long enough and with enough intent. But I guess through his guidance, was inspired enough to keep at it. And I can now visualize with really crystal clear clarity. And it doesn't really sound like something that's very important, but it has been amazingly important for me. I mean, creating this school, I was able to create an image in my mind very clearly of what I wanted. And that made it much easier for me to work towards and to bring into reality. The forms of meditation I now do are very much about visualizing. I'll explain it in a bit. And if I had not done the colour meditation in the early days, I wouldn't be able to do the meditation that I'm doing now, which brings me so much love and joy. So visualization it's an underrated tool, and it's often assumed that, oh well, I can't do it right away, therefore I can never do it. And I really don't like that mentality of just giving up right away when you can't do something. And people might say, well, science says you can't do this or you can't do that. I'm inclined, as controversial as it is, to say I don't care. And I want to give something a proper go and find out for myself. But I think that's just my way, which has probably been not imposed on me, but filtered into me and through me from my teacher, because that's very much how he was and is. So I would be put onto a method and I'd work at these different methods. And what I found was that they would develop me in different ways. So the Tibetan colour meditation gave me the skill of being able to visualize, which, as I say, is being used now in so many different areas of my life, which I never would have really thought about at the time when I was doing it. And then I would be put on something different. So I'd just get to the point where I was able to do that technique, and it'd be, right, onto this one now. And that method I'd be on for perhaps a couple of years. And one, for example, was just observing the tip of my nose. So I think I did this method for maybe 6 months to a year. I would just look at the tip of my nose, and that would be the focal point. And I remember the first week I did it, I came back to him and I said, I can't do that method because my eyes won't stabilize on the tip of my nose. So what I'm going to do instead, is it okay if I just look at a dot on the wall? And he said, which is typical of him, yeah, absolutely. He would let you do what you wanted to do. And I then started to do that. And I told my dad about it. I said, look, I tried that method, but my eyes wouldn't stabilize. I found it really difficult. So I'm just looking at a dot on the wall instead now, because Dea said that was okay. And my dad was like, he said, that's just your ego, mate. You need to work at it. It's not going to come immediately, He's going to let you run along with what you want to, what your ego fancies. But ultimately, you need to work at this if you want to really do it. You will be able to do it, like you found with the Tibetan colour meditation. And so I realised that it was me trying to take an easy route. And then I went back and I started working on the method as it was taught to me initially. And lo and behold, within probably a month, my eyes had settled. And what I actually found was that I developed a great acceptance, an ability to accept that something wasn't perfect or not as I expected it to be initially. So what really came about through that method, working on that method initially, was the attributes that seekers need. Seekers need to be able to accept that things aren't perfect, or that not everything's not going to be as you expect it to be. Things aren't going to be as easy as you want them to be. Acceptance is a virtue. Acceptance is an essential character trait that we all need to develop, and I had learnt it in that moment. So whilst the techniques may on the surface look like they're not enabling you to get into a deep state, a trance state that everyone wants, they're allowing you to manifest the required characteristics that all seekers need further down the line. As you move along, these virtues, these characteristics are essential. And so if you're just picking a method that brings you into a trance state or a deep state, and you're not working on virtues in your own time, then you're missing a big part of the journey, which is the transformation of your character. And what I came to realize was that a lot of the methods that my teacher was teaching me weren't conducive to getting me into a deep state initially, but they would require me to develop certain characteristics. Once I developed those certain characteristics, I would then be able to meditate and get into a deeper state. So I found that eventually, with that method of looking at the tip of the nose, I could get into a deeper state of meditation once I learned to accept, once I learned all of these valuable traits that I needed to learn. And these were essential on the path. These were like requirements that I had to go through. So a lot of meditation for me has been developing, allowing the right traits to manifest and reducing the traits that I didn't need anymore. So these all developed on the way for me. And there were so many different techniques that basically enabled me to develop in lots of different ways that my teacher had taught me over the years and I worked on over the years. But now, the way that I meditate is through basically saturating myself as much as I can in love. That's how I like to meditate now. And I recently saw a quote. I forget the teacher's name, but he was talking about how Jesus meditated. And his students asked him, you told us to meditate like Christ. How did he meditate? And he paused for a minute, the teacher, and he closed his eyes and he said, he lost himself in love. He lost himself in love. That's how Jesus meditated. And that has been the journey for me. I'm not saying that I'm there. I'm not saying that, every meditation is perfection like that. And, I'm obviously not saying that I'm close to Jesus, but in the sense of being at that level, I've got so much to develop, so much to learn, so much growth to still, so much growth still to come, no doubt. But meditation for me now is about losing myself in love. And when I heard that quote, I thought, that's my journey. That's where I'm at. That's how my meditations are now. But I needed that foundation of mental stability, mental control, the time to cultivate these virtues and characteristics that are required. They're not just, it would be nice to have, they're required on the path. The inner transformation of ourselves, it's a requirement. And meditation now is often looked at as like, how quick can I get into the deepest state possible? How can I feel as good as possible? And whilst that's very useful and very good, there's a whole other world of meditation which is perhaps more difficult. It's more about the cultivation of your character, and that's challenging. That's challenging. It's not always peaceful and nice, but it gets peaceful and nice once you get over that initial challenge. But anyway, my meditation now looks like I sit down and I start off with prayer. Prayer for me is the inner transformation again. It's not me trying to persuade God to do something. It's not me begging the divine. It's not me making the divine aware of something that I believe the divine wasn't aware of. Please can you help those people that are really struggling? Almost as if the divine's not aware of it. It's not like that at all. My dad wrote a book recently, and within the book there was a quote, which I'm going to probably get completely wrong, but you'll get the gist of it. It was something along the lines of, prayer is not there to influence God. Prayer is there to transform the one praying. And I think that's so true. And when I pray, although I do pray not from this sort of self-centered perspective of like, I'm only praying now to transform myself, that's a byproduct. That's what's actually happening. But I pray to the divine. I pray for world peace. I pray for my family to be safe and have an amazing day, an amazing life. I pray for areas of my character that I know need work, all that type of thing. I pray to be closer to the divine. I pray for more light so that I can help my students on a deeper, closer level. All sorts of things. But I start off with prayer, and this brings me this sense of communion with the divine initially. I then move into pranayama, which for me, I do alternate nostril breathing, nadi shodhana. And this starts to slow down my breathing. It starts to slow down my mind. It starts to calm the body down, lower the heart rate. Basically bring me slowly but surely into a meditative state. It's closing down the human experience and starting to get me into this calmer, more relaxed way of being. From there, I will then move into meditation. And for me now, meditation is visualizing Vishnu. For me, Vishnu symbolizes Krishna. I know that that's not the way everyone sees it, but for me, the form of Vishnu is Krishna's divine form. So not many people know it, but I am a devotee of Lord Krishna. I follow lots of deities. I enjoy lots of avatars' teachings, Sai Baba, Mother Meera, Deus, my teacher. But Krishna for me is the form that I devote myself to. It's who I pray to. Not because Krishna to me is beyond everyone else. God is one, and all the deities are representations of the divine that give our human mind a way of grasping the divine, of picturing the divine, of giving us some direction through which to communicate with God. So that's how I see Krishna, and I just like the form. It inspires me. It brings about love and a sense of awe. So I will visualize the form of Vishnu, which has the four arms, the disc, the conch shell, the mace, and the lotus. He has all the jewelry on, the crown. It's a beautiful form, and I'll visualize that form, and I'll sometimes talk to Krishna as I'm doing it. And I actually oftentimes will just feel the light emanating off the form. I'll feel the light, which is pure. I've come to become familiar with the light of God, and it's the light of God that I feel emanating off the form, and I experience an immense sense of love. Now, this doesn't happen every single time I meditate, but it's becoming more and more frequent that I will feel a deep, deep sense of love that nothing on earth can ever bring me. Nothing on earth has ever touched or got close to touching the sense of love that I feel when I'm in a deep state of meditation like that, when I'm in this communion with the divine and I'm immersing myself in the divine. It's immense, and it develops and develops more and more the more that I do this form of meditation. So this is why I say I lose myself in love, similar to how the teacher was talking about Jesus' way of meditating. I lose myself in love. And it's a unique and beautiful experience, and it helps me then carry that love throughout the day, and whoever I'm communicating with or it just helps me to carry this sense of love into my day. And for me, that's my meditation now. It's a process of losing myself in love. It's a process of merging my mind in the divine and allowing the divine to awaken within me more, which is what I believe is our true nature. And this is going to continually grow. I often will find myself in tears during meditation because of the love that I feel. And I don't want to give off the wrong impression that every single meditation is perfect, or that every single meditation I feel this way, because it's not like that. Some meditations, the mind might be a little busier. Some meditations, there might be no particular great sensations or experiences. And some meditations are, as I say, losing myself in love. Now, I've had the experiences of being in higher planes. I've had the out-of-body experiences. I've had Kundalini pouring through my body, electrifying me like I'm, some sort of electrical device. And I've had all of that, and they're amazing, but they don't touch or get close to the sense of, the experience of this love that I've been experiencing more and more over the last few years. So hopefully you can see the progression. For me, it started off as there were many aspects of my mind that needed to be developed. My mind needed to be quietened and stabilized and balanced. The inner attributes, which all of this is, I still need to continually work on. I'm not saying I'm there, but the inner attributes needed to be cultivated more. And in the earlier days, those meditation methods were doing that. Now it's more about the love. It's not, I don't care about the experiences. I don't care about any of that. It's the love that I'm trying to harness more of, cultivate more of. Now, this is one path. There are different paths. Some people take the path of breath work. That's more about trying to cultivate siddhis, special powers. Now, a lot of the avatars don't advise that. And for that reason, I don't teach it, I don't practice it. The avatars say the safest and quickest way is this path of love, this path of devoting yourself to an avatar, a deity, or just the divine. And that's my path, it's what I teach. So there are different routes, so you might listen to this video and think, well, it's not the route that I take, or I've watched another video of a different teacher who prescribes this different path. There are different paths ultimately, but this is my way, and this is how things have developed for me. And hopefully, I can make a video in 5 years' time and tell you how they've developed even more, maybe even less time than that. But I wanted to share this with you so you got a bit of an insight into the journey. I know I could go into crazy detail on each of the methods. If that's something that you want, then I could perhaps do that. But I wanted to share my journey up till now in a brief way. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn about meditation, if you want to learn the sort of methods that I teach and have practiced, then I'll leave a link in the description to my online school. It's an amazing place to grow if you're into meditation and you want to realize truth, realize the divine. This is an amazing place to do it. But failing that, I will see you on the next video. Thanks so much.